Today, we're going to dive deep into the mind of T.S. Eliot, who was, without a doubt, one of the most influential poets of the 20th century. But here's the thing. He didn't just write amazing poetry. He completely flipped the script on how we even think about what makes a poem great in the first place. So let's start right there, with that really fundamental question, the one that's at the heart of all literature. What actually makes a poem great?
For a long, long time, especially back in the Romantic era, the go-to answer was this. A great poem is just a spontaneous, raw, unfiltered outburst of the poet's personal feelings. It's all about pure self-expression, right?
Well, T.S. Eliot shows up on the scene, and in this bombshell of an essay from 1919 called Tradition and the Individual Talent, he offered a powerful, crystal clear answer: no. He basically argued that this obsession with personal emotion was a massive dead end. See, you have to understand, Eliot was reacting against this idea that poetry was just a form of public therapy, a place for the poet to pour out their soul. He felt that made poetry kind of self-centered and, frankly, a little shallow. He wanted to bring back discipline and intellect to the art form. So his first big move was to take this word tradition, which, let's be honest, can sound a little stuffy and old-fashioned, and completely redefine it. He turned it into a source of incredible power for the modern artist. For Eliot, tradition isn't something you inherit like your grandpa's watch. Nope. It's something you have to earn through some serious hard work. It's this deep, conscious awareness of the entire history of literature, all existing at the same time, right there in the poet's mind. And the key to unlocking all this, he called it the historical sense. Now, this isn't about memorizing dates for a history test. It's about being able to feel the presence of Homer and Dante as you write your own stuff. It's this sense of the timeless and the temporary, all tangled up together. So what Eliot's really saying here is that for a true artist, the past isn't just over. It's alive, it's breathing, and it's in a constant conversation with any new work of art that comes along. Okay, so if a poet has to be this deeply connected to the past, where does their own creativity, their individual talent, fit into all this? I mean, are they just supposed to be a fancy copycat of the old masters? This chart really nails the difference. The old romantic poet on the left, it's all about being totally original and expressing your unique personality. But for Eliot's ideal poet on the right, the goal is completely different. It's about absorbing the past, using your intellect, and achieving what he famously called impersonality. Basically, getting yourself out of the poem. Eliot uses Shakespeare as the perfect example. He's saying, look, true talent isn't about how many books you've read. It's about how deeply and creatively you can absorb that knowledge. Shakespeare didn't just report what he learned from Plutarch. He completely transformed it into something new. That's the magic. This means talent and tradition aren't enemies at all. They're partners. They absolutely need each other. The poet's talent doesn't destroy the past. It enters into a relationship with it, and in that process, both the new art and the tradition itself are changed forever. Okay, now this brings us to Eliot's most famous and maybe his most radical idea. If poetry isn't about expressing personal emotion, then what is the poet's mind actually doing? His answer is brilliant, and it comes from a science lab. He called this process depersonalization, and this is the absolute core of his theory. The poet's job is not to feel and then write about it. No, the poet's job is to act as a medium, a kind of conduit that transforms raw human experience into the finished art object we call a poem. Eliot explains it just like a chemical reaction. So you have your ingredients, all those emotions, feelings, and experiences. Then you introduce the catalyst, the poet's mind. A transformation happens. A new compound is created. That's the poem. But here is the absolute key. The catalyst itself, the poet's own mind and personality, remains totally separate, neutral, and unchanged by the whole thing. So for Eliot, creating great art isn't about letting it all hang out. It's actually an act of incredible discipline. It's about getting your own ego, your own messy feelings, out of the way so that something more universal and artistic can be born. And the logical next step of this theory is pretty profound. If the poet's personality is totally irrelevant to the poem, then we, as readers and critics, should stop digging into their biographies to understand the work. We should practice objective criticism, focusing only on the words on the page and nothing else. So why does any of this still matter today? Well, because these ideas didn't just stay tucked away in an old essay. They fundamentally changed how we study literature for generations to come. Seriously, Eliot's impact was massive. He shifted the entire focus from the heart to the head, from the author to the art itself. He basically paved the way for new criticism, a school of thought that dominated universities for decades, by focusing solely on the text. Ultimately, he demanded that poetry be taken seriously again, as a difficult, disciplined craft.
But, of course, his theories aren't perfect, and they have their critics. A lot of people point out that his idea of tradition is almost entirely focused on European white men, ignoring huge literary traditions from the rest of the world. And others argue that this strict focus on impersonality can sometimes strip poetry of its human warmth, risking art that's technically perfect but emotionally cold.
Which leaves us wrestling with the exact same question Eliot did, a question that artists and critics are still fiercely debating today. Is great art an expression of the self, or is it an escape from it? Something to think about.